This is Chiming In. Having worked in management for 33 years, I consider you to be the most gifted young player I've ever seen. I don't know if I told you that, mate, but...
Yeah, I haven't told me that. Thanks, Charles.
So you stepped into the Roosters chook pen and trained with first graders.
Yeah, that was pretty bloody cool. Sort of got chucked straight in the deep end, which was pretty tough, you know, doing those wrestle sessions. I always don't understand why it's always such a big battle between league and union. It's at the end of the day, it's just footy, and sort of if you've got good talent in both codes, it's a massive win. So, well, I think it tells us just if you're a bloody good athlete, you can do both.
What was the feeling like scoring that try?
To sort of beat England at Twickenham, the home of rugby, after the bell is pretty special, and it's something that I'll hold close to me for a very long time.
Is that door shut, or is that something you may reconsider down the track?
I loved playing league when I was growing up. You know, played up until I was about 16, and I did love the game, and I don't think the door's shut at all. I think that card's definitely still on the table.
Max Jorgensen, welcome to Chiming In.
Mate, thanks, Chauncey. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Maxie.
Good to see you too.
Big congratulations to you, mate, because very recently you just committed to the Wallabies on a 5-year deal. So congratulations, mate.
Thank you very much, Chauncey. Big thanks to you.
Big commitment. So why 5 years? Why were you so comfortable locking in for such a long term?
You know, I think I just love where I was at with the Waratahs and Wallabies. It was sort of hard to say no to. But, you know, I love what we were doing at the Waratahs and the Wallabies. And, yeah, it was just pretty easy for me to sign for 5 years. And I'm still only young, only 21, so I'll still have a fair bit of time, hopefully, after the contract finishes up.
So it's no secret, but the advantage or part of the attraction to sign long-term is the fact that you get 2 sabbaticals during that period. So on 2 occasions you get to play overseas, most likely in Japan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty big thing. So, you know, looking forward to sort of a different environment, a bit of a change, a different country. You know, they play footy sort of differently in sort of every country you go to. So it'll be pretty exciting to head over to, yeah, as you said, hopefully Japan and see sort of what that holds and how it changes my career.
And obviously the Japanese competition is quite lucrative. The players get well compensated there too, which in a way compensates, it gives the ARU an opportunity to share their players but still keep them in their competition.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of a win-win for everyone, I suppose. You know, you look at the player, the individual gets to go try new experiences, sort of challenge himself and test himself out in a different part of the world, you know, which has many challenges. And also you got Rugby Australia, you get to pay your players less but also keep them for the international season, which is pretty cool. So it's sort of a win-win for everyone.
Now, Max, I've been in footy a long time, predominantly league, but also to a lesser extent union. I don't want to embarrass you, but I've said it to people before. Having worked in management for 33 years, I consider you to be the most gifted young player I've ever seen. I don't know if I told you that, mate, but...
yeah, I haven't told me that. Thanks, Charles.
I would encourage people to give you a Google on YouTube, your tries. You scored an absolute cracking try for the Waratahs last week in round 1 of Super Rugby against the Reds. What's the secret to scoring magical tries? Is there a secret to that? How do you do it?
Oh, I don't know. It's a tough one. You know, I think it's a lot of credit to the boys around me, putting me in that space and that open space, which allows me to sort of use my talents and my speed to, you know, try and beat defenders. So I don't know if there's too much to it. Lots of practice, training, lots of different drills. But yeah, it's sort of hard to put it down to one thing.
Your footwork helps too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of us maybe genetics from Dad. So
yeah. So your dad was the great Peter Jorgensen, who played for the Wallabies and converted to league before going back to rugby. Many people would remember Jorgo from his time at the Roosters and Penrith when he invented the try-scoring celebration, the aeroplane. Do you remember seeing Dad do his try scoring celebration?
Yeah, I've seen a fair few videos of him doing it. I've had a fair few people try and make me do it. I don't know if I'm open to bringing it out just yet, but maybe in the future. But yeah, a lot of people have tried to convince me to bring out the plane, after a try. But
Did he ever say why he came up with the plane?
no, he actually hasn't.
Right. Because the great Jared Hayne actually mimicked the plane later on in his career. He did a few Hayne planes.
Yeah, Dad reckons he's not angry about it, but I reckon deep down he's a bit angry that
Hayne was pinching it off him.
He pinched it off him.
Should have patented it, you reckon?
Yeah, trademark.
So, mate, let's go back to the beginning. You obviously started playing footy as a youngster. Do you remember seeing much of Dad play, or did you go to footy matches with Dad? What's your recollections of the early days?
Yeah, I don't remember him too much of when he was playing. He retired when I was pretty young, about 3 or 4 when he was playing over in England. So that's where I was born and stayed over there for 3 or 4 years, and don't remember too much of that. But obviously when we came back to Australia, remember him taking me to lots of footy games, lots of Tars games, lots of Roosters games, a bit of everything. So that's probably the earliest memory, just going with my dad and brother to the footy and just loving it.
So you played both league and union as a youngster. What was your local league club?
I was at the Leichhardt Juniors.
Right.
And then we folded. We didn't have enough players in, I think it was about the under-10s or under-11s. And then I went to Concord Bird Wolves.
Right.
Played there for 5 years, and we had a pretty stacked team. Went for 5 in a row, which was pretty cool. I played with like Tony Suka, who's now at the Tigers. A couple other boys who were playing, flag and stuff like that, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, right. And union, you went to St Joseph's College, Hunters Hill, famous rugby school. Tell us about your recollections, and it wasn't too long ago, of playing rugby for Joey's.
Yeah, Joey's the nursery. They seem to always bring some talent out of the school, but I loved every moment of being at Joey's. I boarded for 3 years from year 10 to 12. Even though I lived 10 minutes from the school.
Wow.
But it was really cool, an awesome experience, and all the coaches there and the staff with the footy program there is pretty amazing, and to play at sort of that level in school and have such big crowds. We played Riverview once when I was in year 12, and we had 20,000 at Leichhardt. And that was when the stand broke. So and to have that in a school game when you're 17 is pretty surreal, But I loved every minute of playing my footy at Joey's. And
so Joey's have produced some great rugby players over the years. Rattle off a few names for us if you can.
You got Curly Beale, Ned Hannigan, Tom Wright, Tristan Riley. If you go back even further, you got Matt Burke. You got players like that. You could say my dad. I don't know if he was.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
There's so many, too many to even count, but it seems to be sort of one every year popping out.
And when you were at school in year 12, you played against Katoa, who was at, what school was he at that time?
He was at Barker.
Right.
So he wasn't really in our comp, but played lots of trial games against him, and then sort of some of the rep stuff played against him and with him as well.
Yep.
Which is really cool. And then you play against a lot of people. I played against, Will Penasini, all those sort of boys that have come through and sort of gone down the union path or the league path. So you sort of face a fair few familiar faces.
So there's so many now playing both codes, isn't there? That are either signed to league clubs or on scholarship at the private schools. So Cam Murray went to Newington, Tolokula went to Newington. There's truckloads of them. What's the lure? What's rugby's lure to keep them in rugby rather than get pulled across to league?
It's a hard one with the sort of kids of that age, because league just have so much more money and there's so many more teams to pick from, whereas in New South Wales there's only one union team, so it's sort of like a fair bit of competition. But I think the sort of lure is you get to sort of travel the world, which you don't really get in league, which they're sort of starting to dip their toes into with Vegas and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But I think getting to travel the world in union is such a cool thing, and to do it at such a young age is very cool, and the opportunity to play in different different countries if you're open to it. Like you got France, you got England, Japan, all these places that will pay you well, and also you get to have the experience of traveling the world.
Yes, there's certainly plenty of upside. What countries, can you rattle off some of the countries you've been to with rugby
Well,
in recent times?
Yeah, Japan, New Zealand, Fiji, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, France, Italy, Argentina, South Africa. I think that's pretty much the most of them.
It's not a bad start.
No, not at all. And there's many more you can still go to if you end up playing some of those teams. But
so when you're lying in bed as a kid, 10, 12 years old, are you dreaming of playing for the Wallabies, or are you dreaming of playing in the NRL?
I think it was a bit of both, like I bloody loved my league growing up, and always had my Roosters jerseys when I was younger, and always went to the Roosters games and absolutely loved them. And then on the flip side, it was the same with the Union. Always had my Tars and Wallabies jersey, and also loved going to watch them. Like we went to the 2015 World Cup in England, which was unbelievable, and it was sort of like I didn't really see it as two different codes. I saw it sort of just as footy and playing footy, and I love playing footy, and that's what I wanted to do. So obviously with going to Joey's, it's sort of a massive union school, so I sort of went down that path, which is pretty cool, and then sort of just loved it so much and wanted to stick with it.
Yeah. Do you think rugby hierarchy accept that your kids are playing both codes now, and it's up to them to convince them to lean towards the rugby?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good thing if you're playing both codes.
Yeah.
And I always don't understand why it's always such a big battle between league and union. It's at the end of the day, it's just footy, and sort of if you've got good talent in both codes, it's a massive win. So I've never really seen why there's such a big argument that we got this guy. It should all just be we're on the same page. Just let the individual pick and do what they want to do.
So when you were going through school, you're also part of the Waratahs Academy, which it gives you specialist training and all sorts of things. How important are those academies to help retain and lure kids to the Tars and rugby?
Yeah, I think the academy stuff has come a long way from what it used to be, 5-10 years ago now, from what I've heard. But like, it's such a big program now. They've got these under 18 and under 16s tournaments that sort of happen all year round, which a fair while back they didn't have, which league has had for a while. So it's good to see that finally shaping up, and I think that's a big one for some of the kids being able to represent New South Wales at such a young age is pretty cool, and the standard is very high now. So I think it's very important that we have that to lure those kids coming out of school.
So, mate, you actually did some pre-season training with the Sydney Roosters before you committed to rugby. I think it was the final year at school. Was it year 12 or year 11?
Yeah, end of year 11.
End of year 11.
Yep.
So you stepped into the Roosters chook pen and trained with first graders. You'd have been 17?
Yeah, just turned 17.
Right, over summer you trained
Yeah.
for. What was that like? Surely that was a carrot where you're going, wow, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, that was pretty bloody cool. To have that opportunity to train with, the people I grew up watching was pretty cool, and sort of got chucked straight in the deep end, which was pretty tough. Doing those wrestle sessions. I was pretty light at that stage, pretty small, so I was getting chucked around. But it was an awesome opportunity to be able to do that pre-season with Robbo and the Roosters, and I learned so much and just had so much respect for what they were doing and how they compose themselves.
So you mentioned Robbo. You've got a great relation with Robbo. He's good mates with Dad. Tell us about your interactions with Robbo, during that time, and what sort of influence or pressure he may have put on you to get you to choose rugby league. Pressure's probably not the right word.
Yeah, I think early on, sort of that my year 12 year after doing that pre-season, I learned so much from him and love him as a coach, and also learned so much from players like Teddy and those sort of older players which has helped me develop my game so much from such a young age, which was pretty cool. But obviously had lots of chats with the Roosters and also Rugby Australia during that Year 12 period, and it was a pretty hard decision at that time. I think you'd remember it. There was a lot going through my head. Wasn't too sure which path I was going to go down. But I sort of in the end, chose Union and don't regret it. But yeah, it was pretty cool to have sort of both codes chasing you. I think it's always a pretty cool thing to be able to have the choice there. But so much respect for Robbo and what he does. And hopefully, down the track, there could be on the table for me. But we'll just see where my career takes me.
I think the great Gus Gould even reached out. We had a catch up with him. Not so much the table and offer, but to talk to you about what you were thinking and whether or not there might be some interest on your part joining the Bulldogs. Because Arthur Laundy, of course, has a great affiliations with Joey's and the Dogs.
Yeah, I had a.
What was that like meeting Gus?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Gus's character. He's a great man. That was pretty cool meeting him and sort of getting an insight to what the Bulldogs sort of do and stuff like that. So, that was sort of cool to have a different perspective on things as well. But yeah, it was sort of no-brainer for me, sort of between the Roosters and Rugby Australia. If I was ever to go to league at that time, I think I was always going to go to the Roosters and with Robbo.
So just to clear something up, when you recommitted to rugby for 5 years, you were never in negotiations with the Roosters in recent times at all, because you're under contract till the end of this year and stayed on at rugby.
Yeah, we never spoke to the Roosters this time around. Obviously, previous years we definitely have, but before this 5-year deal, we didn't speak to the Roosters once. We sort of had the idea that I really wanted to stay in rugby and wanted to stay for a fair while. So I never really went down that road and just sort of stuck with Rugby Australia and really wanted to focus on that.
Let's chat about rugby and Rugby Australia and the Wallabies with the upcoming World Cup, which is a huge draw card for anyone who wants to stay in the sport. You want to play at a World Cup and you want to win a World Cup. How are the Wallabies tracking, and what do you think? What are your expectations? Read the next World Cup. Yeah,
I think it will be massive. In the first part, having a home World Cup is a huge advantage with, home crowd, home supporters. That's in itself is massive. But you look at last year with the Wallabies, we started the year really well. Had a good Lions series. Unfortunately, didn't get the win there. Sort of could have gone either way in that middle game, and then to go over to South Africa and win there, and then almost win the second game as well was pretty cool. And then sort of Rugby Championship, a couple tight losses, a couple tight wins as well, which wasn't the best outcome, but wasn't the worst. And then sort of back end of the year, sort of lost it a bit and had a bad couple games. But I think for the most part, you look at it and we're sort of building a really, really strong squad. Lots of young players coming through and getting lots of experience. With another 13 games this year, I think it is. It's only going to build more experience and more connection leading into the World Cup next year. So I think we'll have a really good shot at winning the thing. And I see Angus Crichton's coming over. Did you know him when you trained at the Chooks? Yeah. No, Gus well. He's a great man. Yeah. Got to train with him, which was pretty cool. And as I said, it's pretty amazing for him to come across, which is really cool for the Waratahs and the Wallabies. And he's one hell of a player. You see what he does for the Roosters already on that edge. He's one hell of a ball carrier. So hopefully he can bring that to the Tars and Wallabies, and he's going to do us some good. So, mate, you play up to 15 internationals a year. How do you prepare for a game against Scotland or Wales or South Africa? From an NRL point of view, you see them every week. You know who they are. When you play against South Africa, do you have a good understanding who every player in their team is, and how do you learn that? Is it just from watching them at test level? Yeah, it's just watching lots of code, watching lots of footy week to week. But as you said, it's very different. You play South Africa one week and the next you're playing New Zealand or you're playing Scotland or Wales. A a lot of those teams play very differently. So you sort of need to flip your game plan around every week to sort of counter attack what the other team's going to bring. But it is hard. But you just got to watch a lot of footy and watch the people you're going up against and know what they're going to do.
So let's talk about your debut for the Tars first of all. It was against the Brumbies at the footy stadium at Allianz. 2 tries?
Yep, 2
Dream
tries.
debut.
Yeah, it was.
What was it like?
It was pretty cool, to sort of come straight out of school into a Waratahs pre-season and then...
So you're 18 at the time?
Yep, 18 at the time, which, the pre-season was pretty tough, but I put on about 7 kilos or something in that pre-season coming out of school. So sort of got to have my shot in round 1 against the Brumbies, and it was a pretty cool opportunity to finally reach that level where I'm a professional rugby player now. I can say I'm a professional rugby player, and it's what you dream of as a kid. So couldn't have gone any better, and it was just awesome to be able to put on that Waratahs jersey, with the boys and go out there and get those 2 tries. Unfortunately, we didn't win. I think we lost by 5 points or so. Would have been nice to win, but that was a pretty cool experience.
So you're 21. This season is your 4th Super Rugby season. You're into your 4th Super Rugby season. That's pinch me stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It goes quick.
Yeah.
It goes very quick.
Yeah.
Feels like yesterday I was putting on that jersey for my debut for the Waratahs. But, yeah, into my 4th year now. Unfortunately, the past 3 Super Rugby seasons of sort of injury have hit me pretty hard, so I haven't got to...
It's got you each time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got me one every year.
Can you take us through your injuries?
Yeah, there's been a fair few so far. So sort of started out my... after my debut, I think round 3, so 2 games after my debut, I did my AC pretty bad in my shoulder. So I was sort of battling that pretty much most of the season, getting it jabbed every week, which was a bit of a shock for my first year out of school. Never really had to go through something like that. So I had that, and then towards the back end of the Super Rugby season, I did my knee, which was a bit of a scare. I got told after the game I did my ACL, so... Hearing that news is pretty devastating. You think, I've got 9 months ahead of me, which was pretty devastating to hear. But then, luckily enough, I got some scans on it, and they sort of said it was only partially torn, my ACL. So I went down the path of, just rehabbing it without surgery, for the chance.
There's a risk there, but isn't there?
Yeah. Saw about three or 4 surgeons, and a couple of them said I should get surgery. A couple of them said, "Nah, you'll be all right. Just run the risk and rehab it." And there was a chance that after 12 weeks I might have had to get surgery, but it was sort of a risk I was willing to take to try and make that World Cup squad for the 2023 World Cup. And so luckily enough, rehabbed my knee. Got selected by Eddie to go to France for the World Cup, which was really, really cool and a very cool experience to be able to go to a World Cup. And then pretty much would have been 3rd game in, training injury, broke my leg. It was pretty nothing injury, sort of went up for a high ball, came down, landed on my ankle weird, and it just snapped. So that sort of ended my World Cup dreams and unfortunately didn't get my debut there. So I came back, got surgery, went through all pre-season again. And then my 2nd year, got round 6 of Super Rugby, tore my hamstring pretty bad, was out for about 16 weeks, which is always a tough one. And soft tissue injuries can be pretty niggle. And then luckily enough, got called into the Wallabies squad after rehabbing my hammy and made my debut in 2024. Against South Africa, which was another dream come true.
We'll talk about
the
that
stuff you live for.
Yeah.
And then played the rest of that Wallabies season, going very well. Body was feeling good. Finally starting to string together a few games, and then into the next Super Rugby season, which is now last year. Sort of got 4 or 5 games in, and then playing against the Hurricanes, got hip dropped. Did my syndesmosis, which is pretty devastating. It was on the other leg this time, so I had to get surgery for that. That was a fair whack out as well. So I missed that Super Rugby season. And then luckily enough got rehabbed it well with the physios at Waratahs who did an amazing job and got me back in shape for that Lions tour last year, which was, unbelievable. And then, since then, been stringing together some good games. The body feels good and fingers crossed that get through this Super Rugby season.
Now, your Test debut, you were 19 years old. I think one of the youngest Wallabies to debut, a teenager, obviously, in Perth.
Yep.
Against South Africa.
Yep.
What a moment. Was it a heavy track? Did it rain that night?
Yeah, it was pissing down.
Yeah.
It was a very heavy track, just rain all game. So I came off the bench. I was sitting on the bench, had the big jacket on, just getting pissed on the whole time. So it was.
How did you find out you were playing? Who broke the news? Who told you?
Joe Schmidt told me.
Yeah.
Which was pretty exciting.
How'd you handle it? Did you think you were going to get picked on the bench, or did he surprise you? Or?
Not that week. I was pretty surprised, to be honest. Yeah. We were coming off the back of a loss against South Africa in Brisbane, and then we flew over to Perth. And I sort of hadn't played a game since doing my ankle, or my hamstring, sorry. And then, he just came up to me the morning of team selection. He's like, "You're in this week, mate. You'll come off the bench," and that was pretty cool to finally get that opportunity after I got cut short in the World Cup the year before. So to hear that news from him was, it was a massive dream come true. Not only for me, but for my family too. Sure. To debut against South Africa coming off the bench, I ended up getting a fair chunk of time as well because one of our centres went down. So I ended up getting about 40 minutes, which was pretty cool. And it was a pretty big step up playing against South Africa. They were a very, very physical team. But yeah, it was unbelievable to finally put on that gold jersey.
How many tests are you sitting on now? You about 30?
Nah, around 20, I think.
Right.
At the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Geez, they add up quick, but don't they?
Yeah, as I said before, it does go bloody quick. It's my 4th year already, and as I said, it feels like yesterday I was coming out of school and going into my first pre-season.
5 years of it, mate.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Who would be the most capped Wallaby of all time? Would you know?
Yeah, it's James Slipper.
Right.
So he just broke that last year, actually.
Right.
I'm not sure the exact number. It's around 150 caps though for the Wallabies, which is pretty amazing to be able to play that level for that long.
So that's about it's probably a lot longer than 10 years, is it?
Yeah, it's be about 15 maybe.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Maybe 14. Yeah, about 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bloody cool.
That is a long time. Mate, you've been coached by some great coaches. Eddie Jones coached you?
Yep.
What's your relationship like with Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie's a great man. He's definitely a character.
He loves his league.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He does. But he gave me an opportunity at the World Cup and to select me for that World Cup coming off the back of an injury was pretty cool. So I had a pretty good relationship with him. In that year he was here with the Wallabies, which was pretty cool. He's a pretty world-class coach. What he's done in the past for the Wallabies and so many other teams like Japan, where he is now, it was pretty cool to be coached by someone like that.
So obviously you've got a good friendship and relationship with Michael Checker, who's been around a long time.
Yeah, I haven't had crazy amounts to do with him. He was sort of coaching the Wallabies before I sort of came in and sort of missed each other a bit. But to see him at the Roosters now with Robbo is a pretty cool opportunity for him. He's a world-class coach with a hell of experience, and sort of for the Roosters to sort of get a union perspective on things, I think will be very interesting.
Yeah.
And sort of, I think we'll maybe see some new stuff this year, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, he's a world-class coach.
He has aspirations to coach in the NRL too. That'd be a big story if that happens.
Yeah, it would be pretty massive. Yeah, I don't know where he'd go, but I'm sure whatever team takes him would be.
We're seeing a lot
coach.
of players cross codes, aren't we, in recent times, and successfully too.
Yeah,
to both sides.
Yeah,
what's that tell us?
Yeah, I think it tells us just if you're a bloody good athlete, you can do both. You look at Markey going across the league and being the top try scorer for the NRL in his first year, and then playing for the Kangaroos in the same year is pretty amazing. And then on the flip side, you got Sue coming over from the Roosters to Rugby Australia and playing pretty much every Wallabies game since and doing a great job of it. I think it's pretty cool that players can do that jump. And I think, as I said before, it shouldn't really be a battle between league and union. I think there's
plenty of room for all.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that players be able to jump over codes and be welcomed back with open arms as well.
So Joseph Suaalii, when he went over, took with him enormous profile, put rugby in the headlines big time for a long time. What's he like, mate, and how does he enjoy the game?
Yeah, he's a great man. I'm very close with him. We're good mates. Similar age and things like that. We get along very well, and he's been massive for the game. He brought so many eyes back onto the game and brought across followers as well. Which is pretty cool. You got people talking about the game more and things like that, but I think he's really enjoying the game and having the chance to travel the world and experience different things is pretty cool for him. And he's been killing it, sort of no matter where he plays in the back line. He's a freak of an athlete and has been doing very well.
What's his best spot, you reckon? Where do you see him next World Cup? Just crystal ball for us.
Yeah, I think probably 13. He's been playing that pretty much every game for the Wallabies and now for the Tars as well. I think, he's still learning the game, which is pretty cool. He's still picking up many things, so he's only going to get better, which is pretty scary because he's a hell of a player. So I think 13 is his position, and he'll make a world-class 13 by the World Cup next year.
So talking of positions, you play fullback and wing. Where do you want to play?
Yeah, fullback and wing. I think my preferred position is fullback. I played it pretty much my whole life growing up in league and union, and it's sort of where I see myself playing. But I do love playing on the wing and have been for the last year or two, which has been pretty cool. I've been really enjoying it. But I always like to say, as long as I'm on the field and doing my job, I don't really care where I'm playing. So yeah, whether that's at fullback or on the wing, I'm loving my footy and being out there with the boys.
I want to talk to you about your try against England in 2024. I think the clock had run down. We're into extra time.
Yeah.
Big match, and you score an amazing try in extra time. Moments, mate. Moments in sport. What was the feeling like scoring that try at that time?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think it was 83 minutes in, so I think we're 3 minutes past the bell. They'd just scored to take the lead on, I think it was like the 79th minute, and we do a kick-off and get the ball back and play like 15 phases or something like that to end up going down the left edge and putting me away to score. It was pretty cool. I think most of it's a blur now, but my main thing is I remember sort of crossing the line and getting up and all the boys just jumping on top of me, and to sort of beat England at Twickenham, the home of rugby, after the bell is pretty special, and it's something that I'll hold close to me for a very long time. I think it's the moments also after the game in the sheds. You're having a beer with all the boys, and you're all just on top of the world and just loving life. And I think that's what's so special about it, getting to enjoy it with everyone else around you. I find that really cool in those moments.
What do you do in your downtime on tour? I mean, you're on the other side of the world, and you'd get days off and that. Rugby guys, do they sightsee? Do they play golf? What do you do?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of everything. It sort of depends on the person and depends on the day. But, there is a lot of golf being played. There's usually a group of boys who set up a golf game in whatever country we're in, which is pretty cool, getting to play on, we've got to play on some tour courses, which has been pretty cool. And then, boys sightsee. They do a whole load of things, and then a couple of boys usually bring the PlayStations and Nintendo Switches, set it up in the room. You get a couple of boys in playing FIFA or 2K, which is also a bit of fun too. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, a bit of everything on a day off. But it is cool when you're in a different country to be able to go out and explore and sort of dive into their cultures.
Rugby's a little bit different because at worst you're either representing your state or your nation. I mean, you don't have I know they have club rugby and you don't play much of that at all, but you're on the big stage, aren't you? Do you feel the weight of expectation when you're wearing the green and gold?
Yeah, definitely. You don't. I think sort of everyone does. You don't want to let down your supporters. You don't want to let down your team, your coaches. Everyone watching you. But for me personally, I always like to bring it back to it's just a patch of grass with some posts on it, and it's what I've wanted to do my whole life, and I just sort of bring myself back to playing with my mates when I was younger and in the backyard with my brother, and that makes it pretty easy for me out there. You just sort of take all the outside noise out, just pretend there's no supporters there, just have fun while you're out there. Did
you have heroes that you followed when you were a kid in rugby?
Yeah, the main one was Adam Ashley Cooper. He was one I grew up watching. He played on the wing. He played at 13, and the way he played footy was pretty special. And to watch him and then also know him now and get to sort of call him a friend now is pretty cool as well.
It's very much a family, the rugby. The Wallabies and that, because they tend to gather and support each other. You see a fair few of the ex-players, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. It is pretty much a family. A lot of the ex-players come in and speak to us and interact with us, and we have lots of lunches and dinners and things like that with past players, where you get the opportunity to sort of speak to them and learn from them and hear how their game was back in the day and how they played and what they did. So it's definitely really cool to sort of talk to those players. I grew up watching and even play with some of them. Like my first year, got to play with Michael Hooper, which was pretty crazy. He was sort of the marquee player when I was growing up, and you look at him and go like, to take the field with him, only a couple of years later was pretty special.
So, mate, if you'd left school, did you do ATAR?
Yep.
You a good student?
Yeah, I wasn't too bad.
Right. You want to share your score?
Yeah, I got 81.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, which is pretty
so
pretty happy with that.
You studied?
I did my first year out.
Right.
Sort of deferred now and sort of.
What were you doing? What were you studying?
I was doing exercise and sports management.
Right.
And then sort of wasn't really enjoying it, and sort of didn't really think it was for me, because I sort of did it as a job anyway and did it every day. I didn't want to have to go to uni afterwards and learn the same stuff again. But sort of focusing on my footy for now, which I think has really helped me. Sort of had no really outside noise or nothing else that's sort of stressing me out. Just being able to focus on my rugby and build my own game for the last couple of years, and maybe the next few as well. But I definitely do want to study. It's on the cards in the future. I just got to work out what I want to do.
So you got no idea what you'd like to do when you retire?
Nah, not yet.
The good thing about rugby is that it opens doors for its players. Like a lot of Test players through the corporate world find good jobs that they funnel into and live happily ever after. Rugby tend to look after each other a little bit more, I think, than the league. There's more opportunity, I think.
Yeah, you get to meet some pretty cool people along the journey. A lot of believers in rugby union and things like that give you opportunity after you're sort of finishing up, which is pretty cool and pretty cool to build those relationships with many different people from different workplaces, different jobs, and to sort of meet those people is pretty cool.
So you mentioned you played at Twickenham and that. Did you meet any famous people when you were over in England? Did you meet the King or?
They don't do that anymore.
Right.
Which is, pretty sad. I hear the stories from my dad saying every time they went over, they got to go meet the Queen.
Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, got to go into Buckingham Palace.
Morning tea.
Yeah, sadly that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at it from outside the gate.
Yeah, right.
But no, haven't really met any.
Have you got any favourite
crazy
places
famous people.
that when you go away, we're going to London or we're going to Japan? Have you got favourite destinations around the world?
I think, I probably got. Oh, it's actually hard to put it down to one. I think Japan is a very cool city.
What do you like about Japan?
Food mostly.
Yeah,
It's
they eat all day, don't they?
it's just food is unbelievable. The steak, the sushi.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a cool city overall. And then you also got places like Paris, which is everyone knows about Paris. It's amazing. And then sort of another favourite for me is Edinburgh in Scotland.
Yeah.
Which I just find very cool. It was snowing there when we were there last, so that was a pretty cool place to visit.
Why are rugby fans so parochial, do you think? Like, when you talk about Edinburgh or Wales and that, they're fanatical, aren't they? They come out in big numbers. Well, do you think it's tradition? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. They do really love the game over there, and the atmosphere over there is pretty different to what it is here. I think it's just a sort of a sport they've grown up with and grown up loving and always watching, over in places like Scotland, Wales, France, England. It's just sort of the sport they've grown up watching and fell in love with. And I think they've built such a cool atmosphere at all of those stadiums that they're always packed out, always screaming, singing, all game and all day long is pretty cool to play in front of, and I think it's really cool they have that atmosphere over there.
What do you do in your downtime, mate? Are you a golfer or?
Yep, I play a bit of golf.
Right. Handicap?
Nah, not at the moment. Just a social golfer.
Yeah.
I don't play enough to get a handicap yet, but I'm trying to get more into it. Footy's pretty full on. There's not too much downtime. We're travelling a lot, so just spend time with my girlfriend, with my family as well. Not too much at the moment.
But if you're travelling like much of the year and you get to off season, you probably don't feel like going away overseas again, do you?
Yeah, not much at all. I sort of just want to get home, put the feet up. So see my mates, have a good day, out with my mates, sort of things like that. Just the little things, you sort of don't tend to see, your mates when you're travelling all year round. Obviously, you see your footy mates and all that, but mates from school and stuff like that, you don't get to see them as much when you're in a different country most of the year. So just little things like that when I'm back home, I think is pretty cool.
Let's talk about Shute Shield. You're tied up with the great Randwick Rugby Club.
Yep.
Proud history, full of legends. Have you played much Shute Shield?
Not too much. I've played 43 minutes.
Right.
So I played one game.
Because your commitments to the TARs and your injuries, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the game I did my hamstring.
Right.
Yep. For
That'd have
43
been
minutes in.
TARs, yeah.
So that's all I've played for Randwick. But it's such a great club with a very rich history. They've had some great players go through Randwick, and I do love the club, and it's pretty cool to be aligned with them.
Yeah, right. So have you had much to do with the Ella brothers? Have you met the Ellas?
I haven't met the Ellas.
Right.
I've heard stories of how good they were, though.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there? I said before you're committed for 5 years to rugby. Have you given any thought to ever playing in the NRL? Is that door shut, or is that something you may reconsider down the track?
The door's definitely not shut. I loved playing league when I was growing up. Played up until I was about 16, and always loved it. I loved how much space there was. Getting out the back of the block, there's a lot of space, a lot of room to work, which is always fun. And I did love the game, and I don't think the door's shut at all. I think that card's definitely still on the table. But I'll sort of see where my career takes me, and sort of at the end of this 5 years, see where I'm at and what I want to do. But I wouldn't say the door shut.
5 years could go quick, couldn't it? First 4 did, didn't it?
The first 4 went very quick. So,
Who are your favourite league players, mate?
Ooh.
Who do you like watching?
I grew up watching Teddy, James Tedesco.
Yeah, good one to watch.
He's pretty impressive and always love watching him. And I think one from when I was younger as well was Michael Jennings.
Yeah.
I thought he was
Speed to burn.
one hell of a player.
Yeah.
So much speed and he was such an exciting player to watch, and I did love watching him when I was growing up.
Do the rugby guys like their league?
Yeah, I think most of them do. I think not when we're on a away trip, I always like to chuck on the league the night before the game and whatever game's on and watch it. And always like to follow the Roosters as well, watch their games pretty much every week. But yeah, I think most of the boys enjoy watching it and get around it.
So, mate, last year there was the emergence of a potential competition called R360, which I'm sure would have caught the attention of so many of the rugby boys. You would have been at training, there would have been plenty of chatter.
Yeah.
The competition has stalled. Do you guys talk about it and whether or not you think it may restart or it might be dead? Has there been any chatter at training?
Not too much at the moment. There was never crazy amounts of chat about it, to be honest, because I think a lot of it was on the down low. Not many boys wanted to speak about it. But by the sounds of it, they got more eyes from the league boys than the union boys.
I think that's the rugby league media feasting on it.
Probably is, but yeah, no, I think it's a pretty cool competition by the sounds of it. It sounds like a pretty cool concept what they're trying to build. So, obviously it's been delayed till 2028, I think. But if something like that gets off the ground, I think it could be a pretty cool concept and I think would lure a lot of boys over and take a fair few boys.
Yeah, so I assume there would have been many rugby guys that either had committed or intended to commit to that competition, but they didn't broadcast who they were, I guess.
Yeah, I think it never got to that stage of saying who they'd signed and what players they signed. So, yeah, it was a lot of it was on the hush-hush. Didn't hear too many boys signing with them, but I'm sure lots did. But yeah, so I guess we'll see in a couple of years what happens.
So, mate, with the new deal for you comes expectation, and obviously a lot of kids follow rugby, and you have a good connection with youngsters. Do you feel a commitment to encourage and not lure those kids to the game, but to keep them involved with the game?
Yeah, definitely. I'm I'm an ambassador for sort of a thing called Get Into Rugby at the moment, which is pretty much all the grassroots rugby and keeping kids playing from a young age and sort of getting involved with it. So I think to be able to give back to the people that come and support us and watch us play is pretty cool, and to hopefully be a role model to some of these kids as well would be pretty special, and to sort of be the reason one kid sort of stays in union would be pretty cool as well. So I think it's definitely important to give back to those people that watch you, and I think it's a pretty cool opportunity to be able to go spend time with them and help them train and give them some tips for when they need it. So yeah, definitely I think it's pretty awesome to be able to do that.
So I mentioned you were born in England, so you're an English passport holder.
Yep.
Could have England lured you to play for them before you picked for the Wallabies and have had themselves a cracking good player? Does that happen in World Rugby?
They never came after me. It definitely does happen in World Rugby. Like you go over and you look at, the Ireland team. They got Mac Hansen, who's an Aussie. He was playing for the Brumbies not too long ago. They got James Lowe, who's from New Zealand. Then you also go to the Scotland team. Their captain, Sione Tuipulotu. He's a Aussie as well. He played Super Rugby as well. So there's lots of these players that sort of, were either born in a different country or sort of have heritage from those countries, and they sort of go over and then give it a chance over there. And there's been a fair few make it, which is, it's pretty weird. Like when I play against Ireland, I mark Mac Hansen, and it's like he was playing for the Brumbies not too long ago. So it's I think it's a pretty cool thing to be able to go represent your heritage and and you may lived in Australia all your life, but to be able to play for your heritage and play for your family is pretty cool.
Do you feel any sort of real connection with England, having been born there?
Nah, I can't say I have too much connection with them.
Follow the royal family?
Nah, I'd say I'm a Aussie through and through. I would never want to play for England. I just want to beat them.
Well, Maxie, it's been a fascinating start to your career, and as we said, you've done so much in such a short space. I don't think you've scratched the surface yet, mate. I think there's some real big things to come. We certainly look forward to seeing you in full flight and wishing you all the best for the upcoming World Cup. It'd be great to see the Wallabies win on home soil, wouldn't it?
It will be nice. Yep. Thanks, Chimes. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for chiming in, my friend.
Hey, I love it.